This talk was given by Roshi Martin, guiding teacher of the Endless Path Zendo, a lay Buddhist community in Rochester, New York. Join our practice, in person or online, at endlesspathzendo.org.
Today is Friday, the 13th of June, 2025. And this is the second day of our 4-day non-residential session here at Endless Path Zendo. And we will pick up where we left off yesterday with Zen Master Hanshan's autobiography. Hanshan, the Zen Master, is from the Ming Dynasty. His dates are 1540 or 1560 something to 1620s. So he's not the Hanshan who was the Zen eccentric of the Tang era, the famous poet, Cold Mountain. But he took that same name from maybe 600-700 years later. So it's a different person. If you're here or locally, or if you're here in Sesshin for this session, when you go downstairs to the office or public area, you'll see a scroll there, a Zen scroll by an artist from the same period, the Ming Dynasty, of Daikaku pulling an ox or leading a cow. It's quite moving, but he's from the exact same period as Hanshan. So we'll where we left off yesterday. Where is it? Okay. Hold on a second. Yes. He says to his friend, I'm going north on my pilgrimage. And his friend says to him, in winter, it makes no sense. Why would you go north? That's really difficult. And he said, well, if I was going south, I'd be seeing all these beautiful provinces, and I'd be going on a vacation, not a pilgrimage. So I said to him, look, comfortable living soon becomes a bad habit. Without something to struggle against, you get lazy. Not only lazy, you get dull. You slide into a kind of groove. He still didn't see the merits of going the hard way, but I knew that I needed adversity to overcome if I was ever going to gain real control of my mind. So I picked up my bowl and left. Bodhidharma does that when the Emperor Wu doesn't understand him. He just turns around and leaves. He doesn't stick around trying gaining imperial patronage. He just heads off to that cave up over Shaolin. Hanshan here says he knew he needed a hard road, that the easy way would not lead to really gaining anything. Sometimes it's in difficulties that we find our power. Sometimes it's in difficulties that we really have to concentrate so hard that we do become able to concentrate in ways that we never would have without the difficulties, without the stresses, without the trials. It's just one of those things. It's not that we can go search for trials and difficulties, but they tend to come along, if you haven't noticed that yet. They tend to come along on their own, so try and make use of them. That's all we can do. 27th year, he was 27 years old by the time we've catch up with him. This is the year 1572 to 3. I couldn't get any farther than Yangzhou. A heavy snowfall had prevented me from going on, so he runs into difficulties right away. Sick and tired, I went into the marketplace to beg. But no matter how pitiably I begged, nobody would give me anything. The other mendicant monks who were also stuck there fared no better. What was wrong with the people of Yangzhou? I thought about this long and hard. Then an answer occurred to me. I took all the money I had left, and gathering the monks together, I treated all of them to dinner at a restaurant. It was a way of priming the pump. If we wanted to tap the town's prosperity, we had to invest a little in it. Now, speaking their language, we were shown more generosity by the townspeople when we begged. I was rather proud of myself for having figured out this strategy. It was a simple solution, but it was more forceful than 1,000 temple bells. My begging bowl and my robe, they were all I needed. Famous saying about the Buddha, he had only a robe and a begging bowl, yet he was the richest man in the universe. Why was that? What is that pointing to? Hanshan says, my begging bowl and my robe, they were all I needed. Having solved the food problem, I owed my independence to my warm robe. In this garment's honor, I composed the following poem. You wrap around and shape yourself to suit me. Imprisoning my heart, I don't want to escape. Inside you, I've got everything I need. Do you know how beautiful you are? Your graceful sleeves flutter in the breeze like a wild swan's wings. And when I let you hang unbound and the wind comes and fills you, you're a billowing cloud that lifts me up to sport with dragons. Contained in you, I'm free. I can climb cold mountains and linger at the summit. Silk would send me down, not you. You say, stay and make yourself at home, a warm cabin in drifting snows. Mid-year, in the 7th month, I entered Beijing, where I could find neither food nor lodging. All day I searched in vain, and finally in the evening, I was given a little meal at a tea shop in Daiping and permission to spend the night at Yijiao Temple in Heikao. By next morning, an official, Wang Boyu, had learned of my arrival. He sent for me, and out of respect for his brother, Wang Zhongyan, who was a member of Yijiao, prevented me to stay on at the monastery for another 10 days. After this visit, I called on Dharma Master Mahazhong and followed him to Zishan Temple to listen to his talk on the Miaozhong Chao, a commentary on Amitabha Buddha's Meditation Sutra. After the lecture, Dharma Master Mahazhong invited me to stay for the winter and attend his lectures on the Lotus Sutra and Vijnana Matra. I was delighted to accept. I also asked the master if he would be kind enough to instruct me in formal logic, in particular the syllogism. It's so interesting. It's all kinds of uses of the mind. The monks in old China were quite learned, and at the same time they were working on their koans all the time. Whatever they were doing, like in Teisho, we work on our koan. We don't sit and listen as if we're at a lecture. We practice and we allow the Teisho in to strike against the koan work that we're doing. So everything becomes a form of practice. So here he's learning how to use the mind in a particularly useful way for communicating and for working with language, the sutras and such, and eventually being able to teach. So he wants instruction in formal logic. Interesting. Not something that most of us would think of wanting instruction in. Most of us, I think, find ourselves already over-logicked. And so, in any case, times were different. I was a little lonely, I suppose, and missed my old friends. A wonderful admission. He's this very earnest practitioner. He's still a young man, only 27 at this point. But he's not afraid to say, I was a little lonely, I guess. I missed my old friends. It's not like, oh, I'm practicing, I don't need anything. No, I feel sad. I miss my friends. Everywhere I went, I was either hoping to meet up with Miao Feng or I was remembering Zhu Long, whom I had left behind. I even wrote a poem about Zhu Long. Then in the 11th month, Miao Feng suddenly arrived and called on me. His hair and beard were long and his clothing was coarse. True to his mysterious ways, he claimed to be a salt merchant when he asked to see me. When he entered my room, he asked, "Do you recognize me?" It took me a moment until I recognized the eyes of the sanitation monk. Remember the guy who was doing this incredibly virtuous service, cleaning the latrines during the evening zazen. He would sneak out and clean the latrines for everybody as a practice, and usually they were filthy. He was really an extraordinarily, what should we say, noble human being. So, do you recognize me? It took me a minute until I recognized the eyes of the sanitation monk Tianqi at Changji Temple. I do indeed, I said. There's been quite a change in my appearance, he said. I countered, yes, but your original face hasn't changed at all. We both laughed at this exchange and sat there for a while, quiet and happy. Such a sweet little moment. They both are practicing realization. They both have a degree of insight. And there they are out in the world. Even though they're monastics, they're out in the world dealing with struggles, dealing with issues, dealing with how to survive. And yet at the same time, yes, but your original face hasn't changed at all. And we both laughed. Miao Feng was staying at Longhua Temple. When he visited me again the next day, we sat and talked for the entire evening. He explained that he had let his hair and beard grow because he had been living high on a mountain for a long time. At the foot of the mountain there was an old ruined temple which a benefactor, Prince Shu Yun, had decided to restore. The prince had requested Miao Feng to come to Zhishan Temple to collect the Tripitaka, Buddhist scriptures, for it. He asked why I had come, and I answered, why? To look for you, of course, and to see the capital. Interesting. To see the capital is quite a loaded Zen phrase. Have you been to the capital? Have you seen it? Yes, I've come to look for you. There's interesting stuff going on in this little chat. Anyway, I also told him I was seeking advice from various masters on how I could best get control of my wandering thoughts. Wouldn't you like to know how to do that too? As our long night conversation ended, Miao Feng confided, after we parted, I always thought about you. I was afraid we'd never meet again. Now that we're together again, I'll gladly go with you to beg for food. Then he added, I'll even guard you from dogs. Sure, I said, smiling. It was daybreak. My calls on various masters didn't profit me much. I made obeisance to Master Pian Yong and prayed to him to show me a Chan practice. He responded by staring blankly at me. I called on Master Hsu Yun and begged the same of him. He replied by asking, where did you come from? I replied, from the south. Do you remember the road that led you here? I didn't bother much about it once I had traveled it, I answered. Just so you always keep moving, keep departing, he said. Just so you always keep moving, keep departing, he said. I bowed and stood there waiting for his guidance, but he only said a few words about the Transcendental Doctrine. So he's 27 and he's already missed it. Yeah, and he's quite honest telling you about this little dialogue where it went completely past him. Then I took his advice and left. Keep departing. So I left. It would take years before I understood that by always departing, he meant that I shouldn't be attached to any place or anyone or any thought or any idea of myself or anything at all. This goes right to who's hearing. This goes right to Mu, always departing, always arriving. It was really wonderful advice, that he was still quite the literalist at this point. Keep departing? Okay. Turns around and leaves. My 28th year, 1573 to 4. In the first month, I went to Wutaishan. Oh, one place I've always wished I could have gotten to in this life was Wutaishan. Wutaishan is the mountain in China sacred to Manjushri. It's a 5-peaked mountain, and there are temples to Manjushri on the various 5 peaks. Also, it's a place noted, if you ever take a look at John Blofeld's old book, The Wheel of Life, he talks about this strange phenomenon well known at Wutaishan, which is balls of light moving intelligently among the peaks, and people would gather from the Tang era on to watch them. It was seen as signs of the Bodhisattva. Today, of course, we'd call them UFOs. But there they were at Wutaishan, recorded to this day. Who knows what's going on in this world? So, in the first month, I went to Wu Taishang. I bought a copy of the life story of Qing Liang, and visited the places mentioned in the text. I found Hanshan Mountain. He describes Han, the meaning of the word Han as silly. There may be Han and Han, Chinese pronunciations are like one could mean cold, one could mean silly. So in this translation, they keep referring to Hanshan as Silly Mountain. I found Hanshan, Silly Mountain, so serene and strangely beautiful that I decided to appropriate its name for myself. The mountain inspired me to compose the following poem. So this is when he takes the name Hanshan. This silly mountain doesn't go around aping people, playing the clown, society's fool. It sits here alone, contented in solitude, perfect in peace. I should be so silly. What a wonderfully humble poem. This silly mountain doesn't go around aping people, playing the clown, society's fool. It sits here alone, above the heavens, below the heavens, I alone. Contented in solitude, perfect in peace. I should be so silly. People are running around in this world, causing terrible harm, busy with some really silly ideas. How wonderful to have 3 more days today and 2 more to sit in solitude, perfect in peace. We're so lucky to be so silly. Because I couldn't endure the snow, the bitter cold, I returned to the capital. From there I proceeded eastward all the way, begging for food. At Gu, Thousand Statue Peak, I encountered a monk who was sitting silently in meditation. I didn't disturb him with questions. I just stayed with him, collecting firewood, begging for food, and carrying water for us both. In this way, the summer passed. So those old guys, they didn't take 2 days or 3 days. They do like what we're doing the whole summer. He didn't even speak. He just gathered firewood, begged for food, carried the water they needed to live, and sat. Remember, he was working on the koan. Who is it who's reciting the name of Amitabha Buddha? He was working on it all the time. No big deal. You just sit for the summer and gather enough firewood to cook your food, beg for some vegetables, have some water, carry it to where you're living. That's it. Official Wang kept track of me. It should be track of me. Typo here. He sent me a letter saying that he feared I'd starve in the eastern suburbs. He wanted me to return. In autumn, I went because Wu Zhenbo of Lingnan, Guangdong, as today, I guess, who is one of the state's most learned scholars, wished to see me as soon as possible. I had never met Wu Zhenbo, but I had corresponded with him a few years earlier. My 29th year, 1574 to 5. In the spring of my 29th year, I visited the capital's western hill with the most eminent scholars, the 2 brothers, Wang Fengzhu and Wang Linzhu, Wu Zhenbo of Lingnan, and the 2 brothers, Wang Boyu and Wang Zhongyan, were gathered. Feeling very cocky, very full of myself, and spoiling for an intellectual fight, I went to visit Wang Fengzhu. I assumed that because I was young, he'd think he could handle me easily. I sat there smugly, letting him wait on me, as though I were an honored guest, and he privileged me to be my host. So here he is, this kind of up-and-coming monk, and he's really showing off Yeah, I've got all this practice. These scholars are just very smart, and they've got all this knowledge, but what's that? I'll show him. Then, when he was reckless enough to attempt to teach me a little poetry, I stared at him and got up and left without a word. Oh, what a stink. Oh, my God. This guy just stinks, doesn't he? He's like been saturated in sauerkraut. He's so stinky. It's just terrible. Not surprisingly, he wasn't pleased by my conduct and told his younger brother, Wang Lingzhu, about the incident. The next day, Wang Lingzhu came to see me. Last night, he said, my brother had his eye put out. Do you have that eye? I asked. I think I have, he said graciously, now that I have met you. We both laughed heartily and talked into the night. When he returned to his brother, he was kind enough to say, Brother, you lost to a modern-day Vimalakirti. He even sent me a poem he wrote about me. Oh, you can see what's going to happen here. His praise fed my arrogance and puffed me up even more. One day, Wang Zhangyan, with whom I was staying, watched me as I read a volume of the Zhou Chuan, some important philosophical or literary Chinese text. He said to me, you're talented, and since you have literary inclinations, you ought to take up writing as a career. You'll make a name for yourself. My brother is an authority on contemporary literature. He can help you. Humble as ever, I sneered and spat, saying, I'm waiting for the time when your older brother comes to me on his knees, begging me to tell him why Bodhidharma came from the West. Yeah, how many koans go there? Why did Bodhidharma come from the West? I mean, he was an old guy. Why did he risk that journey? A lot of people died sailing from southern India, China to China. Their ships sank. What was so important is the meaning of this question. But in China, it was a huge deal because everyone's practice realization had come from that trip of Bodhidharma's. It was intimate for them. They didn't say, what's the highest teaching of the Buddha Dharma? They said, why did Bodhidharma come from the West? So, yeah, I'm waiting for the time when your older brother comes to me on his knees, begging me to tell him why Bodhidharma came from the West. The younger Wang wasn't too happy with my attitude. He related our conversation to his brother, who more or less said, if this guy's talents are as big as his mouth, he'll definitely become successor to Da Wei and Zhang Feng. Then he added, literature may not be good enough for him, but until he gets control of his mind, he won't find anything better. Literature may not be good enough for him, but until he gets control of his mind, he won't find anything better. Important words. Until any of us get control of our minds and of our emotions, we're not going to be very good for much. We might have certain talents, but what good will they be, really? Our task as human beings is to gain control of our minds and our emotions, and it doesn't mean to overcome them or overpower them. It's not that kind of control. It's like the control of a stream flowing downhill, heading for the ocean. Mindlessly. It gets there. It gets there. It's going in one direction. It knows where it's going, mindlessly. How to gain that kind of control without gaining, without any I've got it. How to become a whole human being, moving all of a piece, like a cloud, like a stream, sitting like a mountain in silly solitude. How to be real, how to be genuine. That's always our question as human beings. And we see so clearly these days the results of people not even trying, not even knowing there's a way to do it. So these 3 days we have now, really important. How to just be, not chasing after all kinds of schemes, not driven by unconscious habitual self-centeredness, but just to be, without pushing anything away. What kind of control is that? One day, the older Wang took a fan on which he had written the lines, "Time is one wing of a gnat. Space is the other. The universe is the hair of a horse." He showed the fan to his younger brother. "These," he said with kind approval, "are not the lines of a fatuous literary monk." One day the older Wang took a fan on which I had written the lines, "Time is one wing of a gnat, space is the other. The universe is the hair of a horse." He showed the fan to his younger brother. "These," he said with kind approval, "are not the lines of a fatuous literary monk." On one occasion, a town official invited Miao Feng and me to a vegetarian banquet. He was worried about the decline of our Chan sect. Aren't we all? This was 500 years ago. Aren't we all? Zen offers something truly outrageous, taking everything away from us to find what we've always had. It dares the whole deal, not adding bit by bit, not telling us how to increase our wisdom and compassion, but taking everything away. What a great risky dare. It has so much faith in us, in our own nature, the reality of it, not a dream. Every koan works on taking it all away to see what's actually always been here from the very beginning. What a daring path. Its utmost faith in our own nature is astonishing. It's not lukewarm, and it doesn't go for half measures, which is why it's challenging, why it can be frustrating, why it can be difficult, and yet at the same time it has so much faith in each one of us to be truly who we are. It doesn't discount anyone from the very beginning. Wonder of wonders. All beings are Buddhas, fully endowed with all wisdom, all virtue, not one excluded. Anyway, he was worried about the decline of our Chan sect. So many ways things can get just watered down, become very polite and very nice. And of course there are times when that's absolutely correct. That is the right thing. It's not to discount it, but when that's all that's offered, I don't know. There's a sadness to it. Lack of faith. Your knowledge and bearing should bring you great success, but not, of course, if you keep wandering around. That's what the guy says to him. You're wandering all over the place. Maybe it's time to stop doing that. North of the river, south of the lake. What do you expect to gain from all this wandering? Samsara literally means wandering. It's the world, this world, as experienced and created by a wandering mind. What is the world, this world, experienced and created by a mind that isn't wandering? I told him I wanted to learn from all the different enlightened masters. Not only was I seeking enlightenment, but I needed help in stopping my disturbing thoughts. I'm not just a wanderer, even though I conceded I am getting ready to leave soon. That's all right, he said, but I wish I could think of someone to direct you to, someone who could be your teacher. I also don't like to think of you going off alone, and without Miao Feng, you'll have no friend to travel with. It's important to have Dharma friends. In this world, there are so many influences acting upon us. To have Dharma friends is a great treasure. Sangha is a great treasure. To have people, they're not the same as you, but they have the same aspirations as you, the same inner direction, the same compass. It's really important. It makes a huge difference. I remember I've mentioned this many times, being in that workshop years ago with Robert Bly, the poet and at the time leader of the men's movement, and he said having companions increases our courage. I think that's truly to the point, the essence of Sangha. To know you're not alone in doing this, to be in sesshin with others, things like that, to sit with others regularly, increases our own courage. It makes a realm that could seem special, quite ordinary. It makes it just real. There you are. And the thing about traveling with someone, it's often that two is, the smallest number, let's say, but two can accomplish more than one, because sometimes we falter and the friend helps us, and sometimes they falter and we help them. Relationship is a good way to practice. We need these things in our lives. So I corrected him. Miao Feng and I will be traveling together. Yes, long ago when we first met, we agreed to be companions in our Chan practice. Then we were separated, and after years of searching for each other, we finally met here, unexpectedly. Well, said the official happily, this is wonderful news. If both of you travel together, I'll be glad to help you with money. Glad to hear this, I count on his support for the journey I expected to make with Miao Feng. But then, one day, the official came to me telling me to hurry and come say goodbye to Miao Feng. Goodbye? Miao Feng hadn't told me he was leaving, but evidently he had received the Tripitaka that he had originally come for, and so he simply decided to depart. I was hurt and felt betrayed and thought that I deserved better treatment than this. The official tried to get me to hurry, but I refused, showing my indignation. Nothing like cutting off your nose to spite your face. I refused, showing my indignation. I see no reason to hurry, I said coldly. Then the official looked me in the eye. Look, he said, I know you want to be your own man, but this pride of yours is just too much to tolerate. Did the ancients ever get embarrassed by such trifles? No. Only their fame ever made them blush. But you have such a grand opinion of yourself, yet you're so easily defeated by small matters. I wish you glorious success in the Dharma, but I doubt you will ever find it. Such pettiness. For the first time, I saw my arrogance clearly. Ashamed, I thanked him for showing it to me. Then I ran to where Miao Feng was leaving. He was already in the cart. Are you coming? He asked. You bet, I answered, jumping into the cart without so much as a look back. We delivered the Tripitaka and continued our pilgrimage. Then in the autumn, in the 8th month, we separated for a while so that Miao Feng could go ahead to attend to some matters, while I took a detour across the Mengjin River to reach the place where King Wu Yang reviewed his troops just before he attacked the Shang. It was a solemn occasion, and I composed the following verse to console the spirits of the dead. Where kingdoms clashed and men and horses fell, a stone marker reposes by the river's edge. The emperor's vow to reign 10,000 years was written in the waters of the Huanghe. Where kingdoms clashed and men and horses fell, that's what lasts a stone marker by the river's edge. The emperor's vow to reign 10,000 years, that was written in the water that just keeps flowing on. I also passed the site where the two brothers, Pa Yi and Shu Qi, had blocked the passage of King Wu Wan's cavalry, and he had warned the king in vain not to attack the Shang state. There I composed these lines. For peace, they left their fortunes far behind. Here stands a temple and a cypress tree serene. The beauty of Hsu Yun mountain reflects the two who strove to block the path to war. The two who strove to block the path to war. These guys just didn't sit on their 10,000-year-old pad. They got up and they entered and engaged with the world from the foundation of their practice. These two tried to block the path to war. Next, I visited Shaolin Temple, where first Patriarch Bodhidharma had stayed. I heard that Master Da Kuan Ronzong had just taken up residence at Shaolin Temple. I wanted to pay my respects to him, but he wasn't at home when I called. It was really fun to visit Shaolin Temple in 2006 on our China pilgrimage. There's a huge statue of Bodhidharma when you pull up in your tourist bus to Shaolin Temple. And there's all kinds of kung fu stuff going on. Bodhidharma was purportedly said to be the creator of kung fu. Whether that's true or not, nobody really knows. But it's quite the place, and then the mountain where his cave was is definitely behind it. So you go up this little trail, and then you pass, there's a nunnery at the bottom of the mountain, and there's a winding path, and then you go up these stairs carved into the mountainside, and you come to a little cave. It's about, like the size of our shrine room. I mean, it's pretty shallow. And at the back of it, there's this life-size figure of Bodhidharma, and there's a little nun in there, and she gives each person a stick of incense lit, and you put it in the incense burner before Bodhidharma. It's a very peaceful place. You hear all these stories of gruff old Bodhidharma, but the place had just this sense of vast emptiness, nothing to be called holy. It was just like a wind of peace blowing through it. It was really very moving to be there. Anyway, so the abbot wasn't there, so I moved on and visited the ancient citadel of Luoyang and Sutra Burning Terrace and White Horse Temple. And we were also there in 2006. Luoyang White Horse Temple was the first Buddhist site in China around the year 500. Two monks, supposedly from Afghanistan, with sutras tied up on the back of a white horse. That's kind of where they landed, in Luoyang. And that was the beginning of Buddhism in China. White Horse Temple is quite a noted little place, and we were able to be there in 2006. It was very sweet. Finally, I caught up with Miao Feng in Heidong. It was the 9th month, and we stayed there together for the winter as guests of Prince Shan Yin. We kept busy, Miao Feng and I. Together with an official named Chen, undertook the task of carving wooden blocks for the printing the Xiaolun with commentary. Sorry, I don't know what the Xiaolun is. The text dealt with such matters as the doctrine of immutability and the world-destroying whirlwind, and I, unfortunately, couldn't grasp these concepts, no matter how I tried. It's familiar to Zen students, isn't it? No matter how you try, there are just some things that you just can't seem to grasp. You just keep working at it and working at it and working at it. That's part of the tradition. That's how it is. That's all you can do. You keep working at it, and then, it was right before me the whole time. And then on you go to the next one, and you're stuck again. There you have it. That's life. So, I couldn't grasp these concepts no matter how I tried. Then I came to this section that contained a story about an enlightened Brahmin who went back to visit the home he had left as a child. Though the Brahmin's hair was white and he had aged considerably, a neighbor was still able to recognize him. "You're the man who used to live here," he said. But the Brahmin smiled and explained that man was dead, and that what the neighbor was seeing was merely his image. So, that's what it meant. When your illusory, constantly changing ego self dies, you can realize your one true and permanent nature, your immutable Buddha self. Only appearances can change. The underlying reality cannot change. I wanted my ego to die back like that Brahman's. I wanted to take refuge in my Buddha self. I got up and went into the temple and prostrated myself before the altar. Everything suddenly seemed so clear. Then, when I got up and started to leave, I stopped on the temple steps and looked with amazement at the courtyard. A strong wind had started to blow, tearing leaves off all the trees. The air was filled with them, yet the leaves were motionless. They were just there, suspended in air, and all was so serene. Finally, I had perceived something with my Buddha eye. So this was the whirlwind that destroys but does not move. And again I understood that the ego mind continuously moves, like a flow of air or water, but what it sees is actually stable, a matrix which all things pulse in and out of. Now I understood. My ego mind had decided that a certain configuration of matter was a leaf, and then my ego mind had decided to string together a series of images and to call this series movement, blowing leaves. In reality, there was no I standing there on the steps. There were no steps. There was neither wind nor blowing leaf. My ego mind put arbitrary boundaries on matter and time and gave things name and form, but reality, perceived directly without my intervening ego mind, was nameless and formless and timeless. Well, this was no small breakthrough. I suddenly desired to urinate. And again, watching my urine stream out, everything stopped. Experienced the eternal moment I saw with my Buddha eye. Now I knew nothing is born and nothing can die. Everything simply is. I wrote the following lines to commemorate the event. Birth and death, day and night, running water, stagnant pool, bud and fading flower. Can I find the point at which they change from one into the other? Can my nostrils turn upward? The next day Miao Feng saw that I was different. "What have we here?" he said joyfully. I answered, "Last night the statue of my mind and the statue of my body tried to go for a swim. If they made it into the water, I'm sure they drowned." Miao Feng laughed hard. "Fortune has smiled on you," he said. "At last, you can afford mountain life." It's so great. What have we here? Soon after this, Prince Shan Yin invited Chan Master Fao Guang to visit us. I had long admired him and looked forward to hearing him teach. When we talked, I found that our opinions were quite similar. I asked for his guidance in my practice, and he told me that I should go beyond the dualities of sacred and profane, or saintly and worldly, and that I should experience higher states of consciousness, not just learn about them. I knew what he meant and thought his voice was a heavenly drum. How different the sound an enlightened person makes. How different from the rattle of common men. I had great respect for him and showed it. Perhaps to bring me back to reality, one day he picked up a poem of mine and read it. "How do you manage to write such beautiful verses?" he said. Then he laughed and said, "Yes, they're beautiful, but you haven't seen them through the right gate, the other gate." Then he challenged me. No doubt your other gate is not yet opened. I accepted the challenge. Is your other gate opened? I've spent 30 years seizing dragons and catching tigers, and ooh, he whined, feigning fear. Here comes a rabbit running out of the grass. Venerable sir, I said, you don't look like a man who's ever seized a dragon or a tiger. Would you even know them if you saw them? At this, he raised his staff, intending to hit me with it, but I grabbed it with one hand and with the other tugged on his beard. You talk of a rabbit, I said. Why, it's only a hopping toad. Satisfied, he laughed and left. On another occasion, he said to me, you don't have to go elsewhere. Let's stay here together and spend our lives practicing Chan. It was quite a compliment. We'll stop here, and we'll pick up the rest of this tomorrow and the next day. Quite the fun autobiography, isn't it? Yeah. So we'll stop the recording, and I will turn the computer around so we can make our vows quietly, the windows open, but make them before the Buddha and Bodhisattvas on the altar.